Hi, Cindy.
Hey there, how are you?
I'm okay. How about you?
Good. Haven't heard from anyone other than Merle as being unable to attend, so I'm hoping most folks will be here. Hey, Andy, in the office.
Andy in the office.
It's
Thank you for noticing.
a different background.
I know I've made it out of my basement office. Really have arrived professionally.
Yeah, there are even windows now.
I do have one tiny window in my
Mm.
my basement office, but it's not much. First use of the webcam. There we go.
Morning, folks. I just needed to grab 2 printouts. Be right back. Oh, okay. Hi, Kathy. Hi, Doug. Hi, Mike. Hi, Cindy. Hi, Andy. Andy, your new office looks really nice.
I'm suddenly so self-conscious because Cindy noticed too, and I didn't know anyone paid any attention to what was in the background. I feel like I should be paying closer attention to everyone else's background. As I've moved in to the Hartford Times building, I unpacked all but one of my boxes, and I feel like I am now really your state historian. So
So wait, is your office in Hartford?
yes,
Oh, I didn't realize.
yeah, which is fantastic. No offense to stores, but you know, we grew up in New Haven calling it snores. And so I'm glad to get to be right here in downtown Hartford. And I do my undergraduate teaching here in Hartford as well.
That's great. Is there like a shuttle that goes back and forth for students?
Yep.
Okay.
There is. Many students are enrolled. They can take all their classes here.
Okay.
You can't get through too many majors, but you can do a couple years here without having to go to stores. So, but it makes it, as you can imagine, much more accessible for all kinds of reasons.
Yeah.
Including for me. It's much closer to where I live.
That's good. Well, it looks like a nice spot with a nice view. You look like you're up high, overlooking everything.
Yeah, I'm on the 5th floor. I'm looking down at the public library. I can see
Cool.
just the very top of the Capitol building. I can't quite see my nemesis, John Mason, but that's a different meeting for another.
I apologize in advance. I'm trying to get over a really horrendous cold. So I apologize in advance for any coughing. It sounds like Doug has loud work going on at his office. Fun. Yeah, okay, great. I know that Liz is joining us, but she has to join late, and Merle is not able to make it today. I haven't
So
heard
that-
from Maisa.
She accepted the meeting invite this
Okay.
morning, but I don't see her on yet. And then John is the only other one we haven't heard from.
Okay, great. Well, I think we can get started. Because I put together this agenda sort of after the subcommittee chairs meeting that happened. Was that only last week? My sense of time is all thrown off right now because my entire family's been. There's John. Good morning. Oh, but I think that what I want to focus on today, because we need to have an action plan to share with the larger commission by the 10th of October, which, if you can believe it, it's almost October. I can't quite believe it, but there you have it. So I thought that it would be great if we can have a conversation today and focus our meeting on the action plan, and also perhaps, hopefully, making some assignments for folks who can go in and do some refinements between now and the 10th. Because I'm sure, not everything we want to do we'll be able to do in the course of the meeting, but figuring out what additions and changes we may wish to make. Now, Cindy, this is supposed to take us through, the action plan takes us through when? Can you remind me? It's just through next year sometime? Yeah, okay, I think you're muted, so I can't actually hear you, but I see you nodding.
Sorry.
So it's all right.
I was saying that I think it's through the end of this year technically, but at this point, I think we can go through the end of next year.
Yeah,
I
that's
think
almost
we
the end of
started
this year,
working
so.
on it. Exactly.
Okay, great. So that's through December 2024. And then just to kind of bring up some things that, there's Maisa. Great. Now we're all here. Good morning, Maisa. Thank you so much for joining us. I was just getting things started to say that I want to focus our attentions today on finalizing our action plan, a pretty finalized version of which needs to go to the committee, the full commission by the 10th, so that everyone can take a look at it prior to our next full commission meeting sometime soon in mid-October, like the 18th of October or something like that. I forget the exact date. So that's kind of what I wanted to focus on today. I just wanted to flag also that are a couple of things that we should all be looking at in advance of the next commission meeting, including the IDEA assessment and the event approvals criteria. And then I think we don't have to spend too much time on that in meeting. I just wanted to flag that for everyone, since it was something that we discussed at the subcommittee chairs meeting last week. And then just have a brief conversation about the public responding to public interest, and sort of follow up from the conversation we had at our last meeting about ways of doing that. I think another thing that I'll just highlight in point 1 that we talked a little bit about at the chairs meeting, and I'm hoping to have a follow-up with Steve Armstrong about, is coming up with a clearer division of labor between the education and the community and organizational engagement subcommittees, because there are a lot of potential areas of overlap, I think. So just a heads up that we're hoping to either have a joint meeting with them at some point in the months ahead, or otherwise, at least have Steve and I put our heads together and think a little bit about how to strategize moving forward. We thought it would be at least good to have some ways that we could stay in close touch. To Does anybody have any questions or things they want to add to the agenda? No, okay, hearing none. Let's dive into the action plan. I will maybe so sorry. Let me pull it up and share my screen with everyone. Okay, action plan. Okay, so whether or not you've spent any time looking at this since our last meeting, we did a little work on this earlier in the summer. And there were a couple of things that I did just want to think a little bit about, because one of the places that we had been planning to do a little bit more work was on coming up with this list of outreach groups and email addresses. And I know there was some conversation about putting together a like a spreadsheet that could hold a lot of this information. And I wanted to check with Cindy about whether we had put together that spreadsheet template. I can't remember exactly whose responsibility that was, but I want to make sure that if I'm supposed to be doing it, that I have that on my to-do list. Because I know we had come up here with a bunch of lists of organizations, and I think we were waiting to flesh that out further until we had kind of like, here's the information we want to gather about each one. Do you have any updates on that, Cindy?
Yeah, so I just threw in the chat the link to the action plan and also the link to the spreadsheet.
Oh, okay. So we do have a spreadsheet. Great. I guess I missed that. And that's probably going to try and throw me in on a. That's going to try and throw me in on a different account. So let me see if I can. Great. Oh, so sorry. No, just copy. Why are you trying to send me as? Oh, it's because it's Safari. That's why. Okay. There we go. Okay, great. Okay, good. So I think that it looks like we can start pulling this together. Thank you, Cindy. I'm sorry I didn't see this before now. Good. All right. Let me move back to our action plan. So where we stand right now, I think we're kind of looking at action steps 3, 4, and of goal 1, and action steps 1 and 2 of our second goal, which is to create a community-based structure to be used for commission work moving forward. I think that there are a number of these that have been. I don't know if anybody has any comments or thoughts so far, or has spent any time looking back at these. I've been pretty sick, so I haven't done a whole lot, I will confess, thus far. But I think that certainly it would be good if one of the things I'd like us to be able to do before the next time we meet, and hopefully to include into the action plan, as you know, developing that list of email contacts for outreach. And then let's see. We were going to share things out once the toolkit was ready. And then we had a second action step around encouraging collaboration. I'm sorry, I'm not really exactly sure what I don't know if folks have suggestions on the best way to kind of organize our time looking at the action plan together, because I don't want this to just be us staring at like sharing my screen. But I think certainly it would be great to have an assignment for everyone in this subcommittee to take a look at that spreadsheet, and I'll pop a link to it in this document so we can all get to it. But getting the email lists or the appropriate contacts into that spreadsheet, and then having a way of continuing, I think that's going to be a continually added to document over the life of the commission, presumably in the subcommittee. And then some plans for, doing that outreach once we have more information to share, which I think we will after the next commission meeting. I guess a big question for this group is, are all of the actions that we want to sort of have between now and if we're thinking through the end of next year, is everything sort of encompassed in this document already, or are there things that we need to add to our plan? And I might see. I don't know if people are looking in this in other screens and it's better for us to see one another. I can exit the screen share if that's the case. I'd like to be able to see everyone. Kathy, I think you unmuted and then muted again.
Backwards. I don't know if it'd be helpful to just go over each one and just make sure everybody has buy-in on it.
Okay.
Great. If there's anything we need to discuss about it, or then we know it's good and we can just move on.
Thanks for being a brain for me this morning. Really apologize. Okay, so the action plan so far, our first goal is promoting this expansive and inclusive sense of America 250 CT. And the first action step, which was really something that was kind of done for us by the commission and Connecticut Humanities, was holding those community listening sessions and conducting the IDEA workshop with commission members. And creating guidelines for future activities. That is really not something that our subcommittee really did. So I don't know if it makes sense, Cindy, to remove this, since this is something that really the IDEA subcommittee worked on.
So I know they've worked on it. I would say they haven't. Sorry, I'm just rereading. I'm trying to remember what that meant, to be honest.
Okay.
I think the guideline for future activities is
for each subcommittee.
Yes. And I think kind of from that IDEA workshop, we put together the template for approving events, and some of those other activities came out of that, the guiding values. And I think that was what we were hoping would come out of the IDEA workshop, in addition to the work that John and Merle are already doing as well.
Okay. I guess I'm just wondering if this belongs in our subcommittees, if it still belongs in our subcommittee's action plan. I'm happy to keep it. But if it's in somebody else's, or if there are particular things that our subcommittee needs to be doing with respect to the outcomes of that workshop,
Yeah, I think the only thing I would say for this subcommittee in particular with respect to that workshop is really thinking as we're putting together the list of organizations to reach out to and putting together kind of that municipal contact list, thinking about being broadly inclusive and keeping in mind how we can engage people who might not immediately come to the table when we say America 250.
Thoughts from other subcommittee members? I mean, it seems like maybe the edit here is to just add something that's a little more subcommittee specific in terms of like, this is pretty broad language, create guidelines for future activities of the commission, future activities of the subcommittee, future activities of folks on the ground. This was sort of pre-populated for us. So I think that we can have an opportunity to shape what we mean here.
I think it would be helpful to note Amherst, because I agree. I was a little confused by this. Maybe just note in there somewhere, action steps 1 and 2 were completed by, the larger organization, but will be incorporating the outcomes.
Yeah. Okay. So just adding kind of a note in here that, oh.
Only because I know in
Yeah.
2 months when we meet again, I'll read it again and be confused.
Yeah. And what was the second thing you said there, Kathy? That like we'll be, sort of utilizing the outcomes of those.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. In terms of this second, I guess I would say, I've been thinking about things that we've been doing already, and how they pertain. The league has hosted 2 virtual sessions in collaboration with Cindy and the folks at CTH, just sort of like, getting information out to our constituency about what's going on with the 250th and gathering information from people. So while the community listening sessions that were already conducted sort of like on behalf of the commission itself, certainly reached a wider audience. There's additional work that has been done, by us, and I assume also by all of you. And I think that, I'd like to also create space in this meeting to hear from one another about any things that we may be doing in our day jobs that relate to this work, and are gathering feedback in a more informal way, publicizing the work of the commission, getting the word out there, because I assume each of us is doing this in some way. And maybe that would be a nice thing to document in our plan, some of the work that we may have already been doing in our when we're wearing our other hats. I don't know, Cindy, if you think that's appropriate to include here, but I'm just thinking of the 2 sessions that we've held, which each had 100 people or so at them, I think, virtually, and had, were opportunities for feedback from a subset of the public, mostly folks at, like museums and local history organizations. But there was a lot of idea gathering that happened in those, and that has, certainly informed, I think, some of the stuff that you've been doing, Cindy. So
Yeah. And I think the hope is that all of the commission members, but especially this subcommittee, is able to reach out to your contacts in that same way, the organizations that you're representing, and kind of continue sharing out the
Yeah.
work that the commission is doing.
Yeah. I mean, so we might have another, there's sort of, like these are the ones that already happened, right? These ones that happened in the spring, but, we've also been, continue to, host, formal, informal, informational and idea gathering, or like talk back sessions, through our own, networks, through, a number of networks, the community, provider, involved and engaged. Andy, are you speaking to us? Because you're muted. Or I can't hear you anyway. I don't know what happened. You're not muted. No. Do you want to try leaving and rejoining? Reset your audio?
No, I don't want to try
Oh,
that.
there you are.
make it
There you
work.
are.
I want
I
to
don't know
make
what happened.
I think it was, I was gonna say theological punishment or something. Anyway, when you have done these big workshops, we've seen some of the materials, they're extraordinary, it's great. I find myself, and maybe others do too, where we have just sort of much shorter, much smaller interventions we can make. And I wonder if there's like, I'm thinking just selfishly, I'm going to be on Where We Live in a couple weeks, and I might get 2 minutes to do 250. Do we have like a party line, like the short version? Is the goal here? This is happening in 2026. We want every community thinking about this. Go to the website. We have themes. There's the resources are there. Is that like, if we have 30 seconds to do it, if we have 2 minutes, is it that plus? Remember, this is not just 1776. You don't have to wear a funny hat to participate. This is about, what America means and the legacy of the founding. And so we want to be so expansive. So this means you, if you are alive today, this means you. Is that the 2-minute version?
Yeah, I think so. And I mean, I think that really captures what we're getting at. I think you can go, I'd say if you have 2 minutes, I would probably outline the themes briefly.
Yep.
Yeah.
In addition to just saying that they exist, but otherwise that sounds great.
Okay. Yeah,
I mean, and maybe that's an action step, is just that we as a subcommittee can develop what that elevator pitch is. Or like, these are the things.
Yeah, I guess what I was trying to say before is I think you have the hour version down very well. I don't know if we, I wasn't aware if we had the 2-minute version yet.
Yeah. I think that's an easy thing for us to do.
Sure.
And that would be really useful. And then it's just like, 3 sentences that are, it could be newspaper like, in that, like, if you have like 30 seconds, here's what you say. If you have 2 minutes, you can read further down, cut it off wherever you need to. Yeah, I think that's great.
And I'll add to that I'm also working on kind of talking points that are more focused in different areas that I'm happy to share once I'm done with those. But I think the elevator pitch that everybody can use is probably equally important, if not more so.
Yeah. I think we've all probably been doing this as we've been, sort of wearing the commissioner hat as we move about our daily lives. I was in an event on Monday with some of my staff that was a gathering of Middlesex County historical societies. And, the theme of the whole meeting was, thinking ahead to the 250th. Unfortunately, the hosting institution had done their homework and was already pulling out, these are the themes. So that was really positive. But I think we're all being called upon to do this. So does anyone want to volunteer to take a crack at that? Andy, in preparation for your
Yeah, sure.
Where We Live interview?
Yeah, I will focus group it whenever in October or whatever the date is. And
Yeah.
we'll see if we get angry phone calls, we won't use it, but otherwise. It's in no, it's on the 20th. I'll put something together by the 20th and I'll post it.
Okay, great. So I'll just say October, maybe.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Are we supposed to put in responsibilities in this document, Cindy, or?
Feel free. It's your document to set up the way is most helpful.
Okay. What just happened?
Cindy, I think I've signed up to do something similar to what you're doing with the talking points. How far? Should I go first or should you go first? I don't know.
Maybe why don't I have the two of you collaborate on this?
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
Can I have you do that, Cindy? Or
Cindy, I didn't want to accidentally duplicate work you've done.
Yeah.
No,
So-
don't worry. And I was just having issues with my mute button, so I couldn't unmute.
Okay.
So that was what that face was.
Great.
I will just send you, Andy, a short letter that we put together for mayors, because that is at least an initial short version that you can then tweak however you would like. And I was also going to say that I'd love to say that I'll have it done by October 20th, and I will not. So
Yeah.
No, that's fine. Then I'll just then I'll make the first draft. I just wanted to figure out who was going to go first. The one thing I kind of wish we had, and we don't need to take up our time today, but I kind of wish we had a very short tagline that followed the words Connecticut 250, because 250 is not necessarily so interesting. Something like the themes are good, but they also don't quite, I want to be able to say something like, the 250th, we're thinking about, what does it mean to be an American? And we're pursuing that through 4 themes, or, something like that, that just sort of grabs people and announces. I picked that one because I do think it kind of, at least, I can imagine how to pick up the themes with a question like that, but I don't know that that's the right one. It might be a question for the bigger commission, for the whole commission, but I think it'd be nice if we had a little tagline.
Yeah.
yeah, and I think this upcoming commission meeting is packed, but we might have some time to discuss it in January. We have been, or I have been using something along the lines of commemorating the past and looking to the future on fundraising materials. And I will find that and share exactly what it is.
Can I chime in just for a second, Cindy?
Please do. Oh, hi, Denise.
Hello.
Welcome. Good morning. You must have appeared while I was looking at, I'm sharing my screen. I can see everybody.
No problem. Let me just say, I think what Andy just brought up is very important, and that we have something pretty soon, rather sooner than January, because, we do need something that grabs people. I got some traction with "It's Not Just a Parade" when I came in the newspaper, something like that. But you're right, Andy, something like a question like, I don't know how do you put it together with the 250th, but I think we need a communications person, and maybe Andy, you and I can talk about it. I don't know. I'm not great at communications, but I was interested to see that that's what the newspapers picked up. They're always looking for a little pithy thing to put up front, so I think we should develop that sooner rather than later.
And that seems to me to be an opportunity to work with the marketing that subcommittee in a lot of ways. They might be better positioned to develop that tagline.
Yes.
I don't know. So maybe I can take that out of here, but I was just wondering, really it's sort of the elevator pitch is one piece of developing, I think, just sort of like stuff that folks can use, whether commissioners or folks out in the community, like, town commission representatives to, give the commission line, and share it more widely.
Amherst, can you, like, can our committee ask the marketing committee, say that we would like this? Like, we make this request of them, say that, like, we're trying to put together this elevator
Yeah.
pitch, and we wanted to know if they've developed language. If not, like, I don't mean to,
Yeah.
I'm glad to work with Denise to try to do it myself, but you're right, there's a committee that seems like they're
Right.
probably better positioned to do it. So let's
Yeah.
ask them if they've done it or if they are planning to soon.
Yeah, I can reach out to Rob and say that we have a need for this and would either be willing to collaborate or would like to request that you folks take a crack at it, being the marketing people.
Yes. Yeah. Do you want us to do it? Or do they want to do it?
Denise's was like, not just a parade.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm just gonna try and capture that because
But
I mean,
yeah, and it may be that we
Yeah.
have 10 of those little catchphrases that
yeah.
it may not be that it's one, it may be that it's
Yeah.
several that we have.
Great. Okay. Okay. Yeah, and I'm sure that you'll find on your Where We Live segment, like what is sticking to the wall too. Great. Okay, so that's created kind of another action step. It's similar in some ways to action step 3, but that's a bit more targeted to the sort of outreach that I think that Denise has already been doing. Do you want to, Denise, since you're here, do you want to share a little bit about the work that you've done so far? Since this is a part of our, and you can remind me what COST stands for too, and I can get rid of my little note to self being like, what? Can you unmute? I'm sorry. Denise, you're muted. Denise, you're muted. We can't hear you. Sorry.
Yes, sorry. Council of Small
Small
Towns.
towns. Okay, great.
Right. Right. So there's
Thanks.
two-
Cindy's doing that. Great.
Oh, great. Yeah, this one caught my eye because we have already started doing this.
Yeah.
In the sense that I have reached out to all the towns with an email letter to all the mayors and first selectmen, asking them to give us a contact person or form a committee in their town for all this. And I've already gotten a lot of feedback, and I think Cindy, we have as well, both written and oral, that mayors are getting this. So that's one of the things we're doing to try to generate this idea that we'd have a committee of some sort, or at least a contact person in every town in the state that we could send information to. So that I'm doing with Jonathan Harris, who is, we have a leadership committee forming, which will be to do basically fundraising for the commission. And it's Jonathan Harris from Eversource and Sarah Harris, no relation, who's the vice chair of the Mohegan Tribal Council. And they have agreed to co-chair and involve their respective organizations. And the three of us are going to be meeting with COGs around the state, the councils of government, which are groups, there are 8 of them that where the first selectmen and mayors get together as a group regionally. So we're scheduling those meetings now. And again, we will this is just really outreach to inform the mayors and first selectmen that this is going on, that it's coming up, and encourage them to, form some activity in their town. So in other words, this is happening already. We're starting to lay the groundwork. So you don't have to wait till fall of 24. It's already kind of starting to happen.
I think that was supposed to be.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I was wondering.
I'm
Okay.
sure it's probably what year is it? I don't even know. Great. Thank you for those updates, because I was pretty certain that we've already done some of this stuff already. So maybe one of the things that I can go back and do is just include, thanks. Yeah.
Right.
Thank you to everyone who's cleaning up my sloppy prose. Just sort of like progress so far, sort of stuff on this so that folks can see where we are. Great. While we're talking about things that we've been doing out in the field, I know I'm jumping around in the agenda a bunch, but does anyone else have, I'm sure that, like we're all being called upon in one way or another to speak on behalf of the commission. Are there other things that folks want to share that they've been doing in their own communities and networks? That whether or not it's related to any of these particular action steps or not, because I think that may inform things that may not already be in this document, or things that we may want to add.
I'll share that I did send an email to all members of the Connecticut Library Association. There's about 650 in there somewhere.
Okay.
Did not get really any feedback at all. It was mostly just informational, like this is happening.
Yeah.
Be on the lookout for more stuff, blah, blah, blah. So I hope that it's
Great.
on radars, but that nobody really came back and was all like 10 kinds of excited. Just, figured I'd let the group know.
Great. I'm just going to kind of include this as a, Doug has, it was the association or the consortium?
It's the association.
Okay.
I will be able to get the Connecticut Library Consortium's help as well. It's a very overlapped constituency, but there are some.
Yeah. Can you clarify the difference between the consortium and the association?
Yeah. So the association is like just the professional association of librarians, like
Okay.
the Connecticut Association of Dentists or whatever it is.
Yeah,
And consortium is the statewide purchasing consortium. So anything,
it.
is basically through them. Pencils.
Okay. And are we like capitalizing, just a style question, are we capitalizing commission? Are we capitalizing the subcommittee titles and things like that? Do we care? Cindy?
Subcommittee titles, yes. Commission, no, unless it's the
full
full name
name
of the commission.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. Action step, create style guide. Great. Anybody else? Outreach.
You hear
Denise?
me?
Yeah. Oh, you're muted again.
I don't know.
There we go.
Oh, Cindy, you may want to mention the visits we've been making to
Yeah.
historic sites,
Yeah.
where we've invited legislators and local leaders to come to kind of get some interest going in what we're doing.
Yeah, and we've mentioned it in the past. I think we haven't
Pilot.
done as many more recently. This summer was a really good time for those. But we've had a good number, probably 3 or 4 of those at this point, and a half dozen or so legislators who have come along. And the great part was that a lot of town officials joined and are excited for getting their towns involved. So I think that was a great first step in raising awareness. But we're going to continue to do these over the next 3 years, really.
And are those sorts of things being captured in other plans? Because I know that's work that's kind of happening at the higher commission level, and at the kind of administrative level rather than in a particular subcommittee. But it is outreach, so I don't know if that's something that needs to be incorporated into our plan.
I think it would be best captured in your plan.
Okay.
Because I think it's most aligned with what's going on with the work being done here.
Okay, great. So, maybe there's, I don't know if this is its own action step, do you think, or a benchmark under another action step? Input welcome, but I mean, it's basically having something in here about like, conduct, site visits at a wide variety of
Places.
organizations.
Maybe intersecting with the
Yeah.
higher level group, if you know what I mean, like
Yeah,
in addition, but also at those.
I mean, it may go alongside the, because a lot of this has been related to engaging legislators. And has been related kind of to, I feel like the choice of sites has been designed to illustrate the broad interpretation of our charge. So I don't know if it belongs here in action step 3, because you've been inviting legislators and that's been a big part of it. I don't know. I have not been able to attend any of these, so I don't have a good sense of the best place that belongs. But if you have a sense, Cindy or Denise or anyone else, I don't know if have other members of the subcommittee been able to attend any of these site visits. I was going to go to Old Newgate, but I had a cold.
I think they've been very effective, honestly, in
Yeah.
getting attention to these sites. I guess for me, it's under action step 3 because it's municipal leaders, legislators. I'm not sure if it fits under funding organizations exactly. It's more like bringing attention to these historic sites in this context. And it could go there. But I guess there's other places it could go too. I don't
Yeah, I think
We can
wherever
also-
you feel comfortable putting it for
Okay.
now, and
Yeah.
I'm having a hard time getting a really big picture view of it, so eventually I'll have to really print out and look at this. But just remembering to include it.
Yeah. Okay. I'll just put a note to add it, to straight, etc. I can develop this language later. I mean, we get the idea that it's, we're not just going to revolutionary sites. We're visiting places that engage with all the different themes of that the commission is highlighting. Okay, great. We can incorporate that. And do you see that, Cindy, as something that's going to be sort of ongoing? We're going to continue to do these site visits, or is that just something? Well, I guess it'll take us through 2024 either way. So, right.
Right. I think it will definitely be, like I said, I think we'll be doing these through 2026, 27.
Okay.
Eventually it'll be less of a site visit and more of a inviting folks to attend any events that are hosted. But at the end of the day, it's about connecting legislators, towns, and sites together.
Okay. Thank you. Other things that we want to highlight that we've been doing either on our own or in other avenues of the commission that should be incorporated into this plan. And welcome, Liz. Thank you for joining us, if you're still here. I saw you sign on.
I'm here.
Yeah. We're just going through the action plan and trying to flesh it out in preparation for its sort of due date on the 10th of October.
Great.
And we've been talking a little bit about things that we've been doing kind of with our other, like our day job hats on. So I don't know if there's anything that you would like to share since you have fingers in so many pies that relate, we've talked about site visits a little bit. I know you've been involved with those. If there's anything else that you've been working on through SHPO, the Office of the Arts, the museums, or other DECD things that should be kind of captured as things that we're doing as a subcommittee.
I think the only thing I would say that isn't really captured it is captured probably is just, SHPO makes lots of site visits. And we end up in different places at different times, plus through the Good to Great Awards. So we do talk about, we do talk about the 250th when we're out. It usually comes up. So Other than that, no, just, and then I, have conversations with legislators too.
Great, yeah. Great. We were, one of the things, I think we were talking about it before you signed on, but just to bring you up to speed, one of the things that we had talked about doing was kind of developing this sort of elevator pitch that commission members can utilize whenever they're sort of called upon to speak on the commission's behalf, since it's clear that all of us are already being asked to sort of do that. So that's something that I think might be, and I think Andy and Cindy were going to kind of work on this. But if you have particular things like guidance on what's been successful, I think that they would welcome that. What's kind of been sticking to the wall. We also talked about developing like working with a marketing committee to develop like some taglines.
Yeah, well, I guess what I would add is that the new state marketing campaign will be coming out sometime in the middle of October, and it will, it will definitely be able to be utilized for this purpose. Having seen it, I can definitely share that. So I think that maybe one of the things that we could be sharing with people are, once that comes out, are potentially examples of how that state branding could be used and adapted to do some 250th branding.
Liz, are you able to share it yet, or is it embargoed?
I'm not. No, sorry. I haven't even seen everything fully. I've only just gotten a little sneak peek. So
yeah, and I will say that we are working with Anthony and a graphic designer at Deep to tie in the new commission logo with the new state branding.
So it's already been done. You're working with somebody at Deep. That's fascinating. Huh.
Yeah. I can tell you offline what the plan is.
No, it's fine. I'm just astounded that someone at Deep would show up or answer an email. It's great.
Good news.
Good news, man. Oh man, it's all about the party.
I'm just hoping we're still revolutionary.
I think that's out.
We haven't been still revolutionary for about 5 years. That has dropped. So that is.
I'm still revolutionary. That's what I want to know.
I think you're gonna like this even better, and it's not. There's definitely nods back.
Okay, great. Thank you, Liz. That is useful information, and we'll look forward to. I'm looking forward to seeing what is going to be coming out of tourism, because I think there's some excitement there. Okay. I don't know where we are. We've ended up kind of at the end. I think that certainly we have some work that we're going to be doing between now and the next meeting to flesh out that spreadsheet, and I'll include a link to that in this document, as well as in a follow-up email. I think sorry. One of the things that I've been thinking about, I think when we talked about there was a sense of the subcommittee not really wanting to grow itself too large. But I think one of the things I wanted to think about is whether there are voices missing from this table that we think should be here. I was thinking about the tribal communities in Connecticut, which seem quite important to the work of community organizational engagement. And I would love to, so I would kind of like to think about whether we should invite someone onto this subcommittee who can be a better representative of those communities. And if there are other lacunae in this committee or this subcommittee that that we want to think about. That's one that's just kind of suggested itself to me. And if we have particular people, I believe Michael Johnson was suggested at an earlier date as someone we might reach out to. And how folks would feel about doing that, because I think there was a sense among this subcommittee that we didn't want to get, enormous.
I think that's a great idea.
Okay.
And I endorse it.
Okay.
But I don't know who in particular. So
Yeah.
that would be the next one.
Amherst, I know that Michael Johnson is probably overbooked.
Yeah.
I'd be
That's
happy
the
to
thing.
just-
I get the sense,
Pretty much everybody is, but I could,
Yeah.
for the group that I deal with at NAHAC, I can at least put out the request to them and they can float it to other tribal members if somebody would be willing to be, sit on the committee.
great. That would be wonderful, Kathy. That's the thing is it's like, walking that line between wanting the voices at the table and not overburdening people with unremunerated labor, which we're all doing right now.
And if, and I'll copy you on the email, but I think what I'll do is I'll make an introduction, talk a little bit about the subcommittee, what our goals are, ask if anybody is interested in participating or knows somebody. And
Yeah.
Alternatively, if everybody's at capacity, maybe we could just set aside one meeting where tribal representatives could come and we could get some input.
That's great.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Absolutely. We could, there's folks, if that is something that a way we decide to go, I can definitely, there's folks I know who might be able to come to spend a half an hour talking about this.
Great.
One of the things I put in the chat, Amherst, is just in terms of like the community and organizational engagement, is if we're talking about engaging with, communities across Connecticut, I think we need to have every single thing that is, whether it goes in the marketing. I mean, there's at a certain point now we're beginning to be having, cross conversations, right?
Yeah.
But everything should be in multiple languages, and it's really easy to find out what the top 10 languages spoken across Connecticut are. I think that's just like that, all of that has to go on. That has to just be done, not asked to be done. It just should be.
That's a great point.
So every toolkit that's out there should be in the multiple languages.
Our elevator speech.
Elevator speech.
Yeah.
Elevator speech on, exactly.
Yep. That's such a good point. What is the best, do you have suggestions on the best mechanisms for doing that? Because I'm not sure that our subcommittee can do it.
No, they have to hire translators to do it.
Okay, yeah, right. Thank you. Sorry, I'm just like taking notes at the end here. And I think we can think about the best places to put this information in. Okay. I'm not even sure where we left off.
Can I just ask a quick question about that? With the idea of hiring, did the 250th, or is it going to have any kind of a budget? And if not, maybe a translating service would consider donating those services, or is fundraising another topic?
Yeah.
We are working on fundraising. We're also working on advocacy for state funding for the commission. We received 100,000 for this year, which we are very quickly going through. But that said, a priority is access. So thinking about how we make sure that we're demonstrating that we're committed to access is really important. And we can get translators on board. I think we first need to really make sure that kind of create a final version of the most important materials that we want to distribute, so that we are translating those, not going through not
Yeah.
translating draft materials that then will need to be redone. So I don't think we're at the point where we have final materials yet, but as we get closer, I think that is a great point.
Well, great. And I think this speaks to something that we talked about at the subcommittee chairs meeting, which is identifying resources that this committee needs, you know, because I think that will inform the work that that especially Cindy is doing to raise money for, you know, if we have concrete things like we need money to do X, Y, and Z, I think that makes her work easier, or at least clearer. You know, so it seems to me that, you know, money for translating materials is, you know, one thing that we need, or just the resources of a translation firm that's willing to, you know, donate the time. You know, I'm also thinking about, wouldn't it be amazing if there were ways that we could assist organizations with ensuring that their work is also reaching multiple communities, either through translation, or I know that, you know, one of the things in the approvals criteria is, you know, accessibility, and, you know, hiring someone to do live ASL translation of something, you know, interpretation is expensive. Are there ways that the commission can make it easier for us, you know, grassroots organizations to make their events accessible to a wider public, you know, through those marketing materials, or through, I mean, this is like pie in the sky, but wouldn't it be great if we could put money behind that, or make funds available, you know, to organizations to do that and fulfill the goals of the commission and the values of the commission. So, I mean, that's the like even bigger idea that this suggests to me, is not just for our own work as a commission, but how can we help the organizations who are actually going to be like hosting most of the events also have access to that.
Amrys, you got to write that down.
Yeah.
That's because that is it's a key point. It's putting your money where your mouth
Yeah.
is. If we're going to be saying these are our goals, we need to help support people achieve them.
Thank you for saying that, Kathy, because I didn't know how to say that.
Yeah.
And that may change, just by way of agreeing with everybody, that may change a little bit in a subtle but important way, just how we even talk about what we need. We don't need to hire a translator. We need to provide resources to a community partner.
Yeah.
To make the materials accessible.
Okay.
I think it's two, I think, Andy, it's two different things, though. I think that any material that comes out from the state that's considered to be a toolkit must be presented in multiple languages first. And then there's this other piece of helping.
Yeah, but help me understand, like, logistically how that works. Like, will the commission be able to hire?
I think that's what we were just talking about is.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm just saying, I would describe that not as hiring a translator. I would describe it as enlisting a community partner, even though functionally, I understand they're translating everything that we're producing. If it's not an in-house person, then it might as well be someone at a community organization that we want a partnership with in general, right? Or am I misunderstanding?
I don't think that's wrong, but I think when my experience has been that when we talk about community partners, no one thinks that there's a need for money. So I think it's better to really say there needs money to ensure that the end outcome is met, not necessarily the method of how to achieve it. Like that, we can figure that out.
That became much clearer for me, Liz. Thank you for explaining to me.
Code speak, you
know. With this, you know, conversation shifting to resources that we feel we might need, are there others that we would flag for any of these particular action steps or benchmarks or goals that really suggest opportunities for, I mean, you know, if we think capaciously and optimistically about our ability to do this work, what other resources do we think we're going to need to do it effectively in the best way possible?
Well, I do think, you know, one of the things that has been successful is to actually be ensuring that people are talking about this, that where other people are, right? So sorry, that was like totally, let me start again. So Office of the Arts partners with Fox 61 to do a campaign called Creative Futures, where they are weekly, highlighting an interview with a creative across the state. All that content is archived. I keep going back to sort of, where do people go to consume their media? I know it's not always Fox 61, right? I'm well aware of that. But I think identifying who the media partners are, and again, this is sort of cross responsibilities, because those are, if we're really going to be talking to communities, right, we have to ensure that more than one person in a community or municipality hears us. I mean, that would be the best thing. So we would be helping those community leaders that we are able to speak to and have a more direct conduit to actually share this information. So I think identifying media partners to help message this to communities, and whatever this first is that this is coming, but then all the things that are coming with this. And this is definitely a tourism thing. Anthony would be really important in this, but it takes money to ensure that a media outlet will pick up your story once or maybe twice, but it takes a sustained funding to have a year's worth of content created. And working with a media outlet like a news channel or whatever else, I'm not savvy enough to know whatever else, actually is a very economical way of getting your message across, as opposed to hiring people to create little, vignettes and interviews and that can be shared and splashed all over. So.
Okay.
And
So,
I think,
no, go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, I was just going to say, I think that's a great point, Liz. And I will say that at least personally, I have been thinking of this committee as kind of the bottom up committee and the marketing and tourism is kind of the top down committee. So I think if this committee can really talk to community leaders and get a sense of what those media partners would be, that would be really helpful, and then provide that information to marketing and tourism as they start making their plans for media outreach. So this subcommittee to me is really very intertwined with the work of all the other subcommittees in a really important way.
That seems like a good, division of labor if we're thinking about what is the responsibility of, and I'm assuming that once we share these with the rest of the commission, we will further refine them based on the areas of overlap that we're seeing or potential overlap that we're seeing, when I'm looking at these after the 10th. I'm going to be thinking about, these other plans suggest things that we haven't thought of that we should be doing in our subcommittee? So presumably there'll be a round of edits that will follow. But, I think that, it's going to really help us kind of refine and figure out where those divisions of labor are.
Keep thinking about, I think the point that I was trying to make is you can do a million press releases, right? And hope that things get picked up. But if you buy time, then you get what you want. So that is something that needs to be resourced.
Yeah.
I think buying media time, which is if working with a news station particularly, or online whoever's, I tend to get my media in a traditional way. I'm really sorry. Then they you get what you want, and you get reusable content. I have 20 interviews with creatives that are 2-minute wonderful videos and a whole lot of other things, and that got airtime and are aired again and again, and the total cost is $30,000. That is not a lot for I'm getting a deal. Because if you were to go to CPTV right now to have them do it, they wouldn't even touch it. They don't have the people, they don't have the money, you couldn't even pay for them to do it. And I have, that's how I know that. So
Okay. Well, I mean, that's a great point to the question about resources, right? So. And I think, this to me just suggests that there's gonna be a joint conversation with, and when I reach out to Rob to talk with him about, the taglines, it's not just that, but other areas where we are probably going to be overlapping or, working together to develop some of this stuff. And learning a little bit more about what they'll need from us to do that effective outreach. Okay, let's see. It's afternoon. I wanted to, how are we feeling about the plan? So what, like, one of the things that I think needs to happen here is basically to take the suggestions that have been made in this meeting and incorporate them into the appropriate sort of action steps and benchmarks. I'll certainly end this meeting with some, like, a list of things that we should be doing. Are there other things that are not captured here that we feel this subcommittee, I'm sorry, is really tasked with in our work, engaging organizations and communities across the state and ensuring that we're doing that work effectively and without missing important stakeholders?
I'm just wondering, and I'm sorry, have we discussed it all, the public school community? I'm just thinking, I'm just thinking, I know that the responsibility sits within the municipality, but schools often don't receive direct their relationship with their municipality, it's all different all over the board. So I'm just wondering, what is the opportunity and the method and the means to potentially engage with at least the public school community? I mean, there's lots of other school communities, so maybe the broader school community, but
So
yeah,
I think that's a great point. I do think that the education subcommittee is thinking about that a lot.
perfect.
But I think that's another place where there will be some overlap, because they're a great way, the public school community is a great way to reach families, which is one thing that everyone in education keeps repeating. Students bring information home to their parents, and whether it's handouts or just, I learned this in school today. So they're a connector.
And it speaks to, I think, too, like, if whoever is talking to the municipalities, the message to the municipalities has got to include all the other constituencies that are also receiving messages that are affiliated with the municipality, right?
Mhm.
So, like, I would hate to know if I was the first selectman of X town that, like, oh, it didn't occur to me that my schools were all also getting message. Like, I'd like to know that, just makes my job easier to know. So.
okay.
But this is a kind of maybe an annoyingly abstract thing to say, but I mentioned it at the last commission meeting. I think at a certain point we start to bump up against our commitment to not really organizing anything, but just supporting other people, because it would be, I think, very useful. Not every community that we hope to be involved is going to be interested or have the resources to just like put something together. And it would be nice if we had some buckets, some, not just the toolkit that, I don't just mean the toolkit we put together, but like, for example, for a school, if we had a canned curriculum that everyone can have, but you plug in documents from your community, that's just such an easier lift for a teacher. And I think we might at some point want to consider if we can do that in other ways. Like, I got distracted thinking about translating everything, thinking about how the Declaration of Independence was translated into many different languages and has circulated around the world for a long time and inspired, revolutionary moments in other countries. That's a big academic project for someone else to tackle. But if we could sort of have like here's what here's the Declaration of Independence in Spanish. Here's how it's circulated in the Caribbean, and sort of deliver that to a community group and say, here, we've done some work for you, not to sort of control what they would do with it. But I don't know. I just think we might need to help more than we imagine helping right now.
Yeah.
If we really want to make it easier for other people to participate. I don't know what that looks like exactly, but it is on my mind.
I think
Sort of
that's,
like you say, plug and play kind of activities.
yeah, and I think we know that there will be some of that. Whether it's a commission activity or a separate CTH-led activity in partnership with the commission is kind of up in the air how that division of labor ends up working out. But I know that the hope is that the resource database will be a little bit of that, because eventually we're hoping that people will be able to search that by town and find documents specific to their town. Education is working to figure out how to gather together resources for teachers in one place that's easy for them to use. So I think it will all come together over time and everyone's in agreement.
I think those, like what you're saying, Cindy, is just right. And I think probably CTH may be much better equipped to do it than the commission. This all makes sense. But I think even more than just making the resource available is great for a certain tranche of people. But I think we may need to have something that's like, here's how to do a Declaration of Independence study group at your library. And if you want, CTH can deploy one person who can come to lead it. And that's the way that your library can do this 250 thing with just a program that just shows up. And all you need to do is have the space, and all the better if you can have some bottled water and donuts. Like, I think we want to, which we can pay for, which also there's funding for that too. But I think we might want to have something that is just so easy that like you just order it off the shelf and you get to do your 250 thing in a way that meets the themes and values of the commission, to make it very easy for anyone to do what we're hoping they will, along with, along with supporting them to do their own thing.
Yeah, and I think I'm going to throw Doug in here. That type of thing might be in partnership with the Connecticut Library Association, and there might be something different in partnership with the Council of the Arts. I think we're going to have to think about how it works best.
Totally. Yes, I don't pretend to know what those things are, or how many we need, or who should organize them. But I haven't heard, at least in the meetings I've been in, too many discussions about those kind of canned programs, because we've been sort of allergic to planning stuff. But I do think we're going to have to make a decision at a certain point. Are we going to try to make are we going to try to make it easy enough for everyone to really be involved? Or are we just going to throw everything out there, make sure people know about it, and then hope for the best?
That's great. I mean, I feel like this suggests another thing that we might want to pop somewhere, just about like developing quick and dirty plug and play kind of materials, canned programs, and working perhaps with the other subcommittees who will also have ideas from where they've been working. So there's a weird noise coming from somewhere. That can help us identify what those are. And then, the resource that we might need there is assistance in actually developing those resources. And maybe you identify community partners to work with to help do that. And then, the commission's responsibility becomes less developing them, but more like making them really widely available through, our really robust network that we've developed.
Yes, and it would be even better, I think it would fit with our vision perfectly, which maybe is what Liz is saying in the chat. If one of the organizations was inspired to create a canned program, that then we could support them to bring around. I mean, that would be the best. And maybe what I'm saying is, and maybe what Cindy is nodding knowingly, is that that's already happening, which would be fantastic.
I hope that's what happens, because I think we will need that to really be able to do it as broadly as possible. I'm not aware of it happening yet, but it's early.
Well, it does seem like this is what I mean, thinking about how people actually do things, right, in town. So, when I ran a small historical society, it was like, okay, we can do 2 or 3 things ourselves, but we're also buying 2 or 3 things. So I'm buying for $250 somebody to come and talk about X. So the resource would be this website, right? That would actually, where people would submit the programs that other people can buy. Maybe that they don't have to create any of their own. And certainly the commission doesn't necessarily, I mean, it would be, that we're not going to create any of our own, but like, Andy might want to be, going out and talking about like, his special. So you can have Andy come to your place. It only costs $500 and he will talk about this. And this is a 250th affiliated program, right? And I think that actually would make life a lot easier for people because it gets their ideas flowing. So if that's how they start their planning, then they probably, it takes people to the next step. Yeah. Or historical society can say, well, we're bringing in 3 programs from this like list of places that are like, people who offer this, Connecticut Historical Society, Mark Twain, whatever it is,
Right. But if the point is that like, for 30 grand is a bargain to create a bunch of paid media, 30 grand pays for 2 nice facilitators to say yes to everything for free for a year, probably, to do 100 programs. So I think like that may be something that we want to provide some resources to and really make, really push forward as much as we can.
That can't do, one is not necessarily mutually.
No, I agree. They go together. Absolutely.
The concept is make it easy, right? Make it easy and give people an entry in that maybe will actually spark like other interesting things or help them to achieve their own 250th dreams,
Exactly, Liz. Thank you. That's right.
I think there's kind of maybe like another goal embedded in this and a set of things that we could like flesh out in the action plan. Really, it's not just keeping people informed and, encouraging that kind of collaboration, but really making it easy to, offer this, to do the work, right? And what are the resources that we can provide as a commission or otherwise partner with organizations that are doing the work already and amplify and make accessible what they are producing. And whether that's like, this kind of website exchange or buying somebody's time for a year,
I think none of this would be new to Connecticut Humanities. Speaking of someone who has been in this in Connecticut for like 1 billion years, Connecticut Humanities has done exactly this. Yep. So it's just going back to a model to make it's a little like we move away from the plug and play, but in fact, plug and play could actually be a useful thing. Like you could apply for $250 to do this thing, right? Or you could just do it because it's already paid for, Andy. Like these are the things you can get, instead of applying for $250 to bring someone, you're applying to get, you're trying to reserve this program for this time. And then Connecticut Humanities pays for it through a $200.
I love that, Liz. Yes, I like that.
Make it even easier.
Great. Okay, I'm taking a look at the time. We have a lot of ideas incorporated in here, but I think we need to do some work on the document itself. I'm trying to be really thoughtful about the fact that I have like 2 major grant reports and a grant application due within the next few weeks. And I do not anticipating have a lot, as well as some work on our own strategic plan. And I'm feeling stretched rather thin in this current month. So I would really be looking for some assistance from members of this subcommittee to whip this document into shape based on the conversation that we've had in this meeting. Do we have any volunteers? Doug? Yeah.
I will try.
Okay, great. I think, what I might suggest as a first step is basically trying to and I tried to take some notes in here that I hope will be useful. But basically kind of going through with our conversation in mind and putting action steps and benchmarks and goals in what seems like kind of the right place, and then recirculating it to the subcommittee, you know, sort of within the week. Let me stop the share and I can look at my calendar and see all your lovely faces again. So if we're looking at October starts next week, oh my God. And this needs to be to the full commission by the 10th, which is the day after Indigenous Peoples Day. So that's a little less than 2 weeks out. I think that if we could have something, do you think you could have like something by early next week, Doug, that we
Yes.
could all look at and then weigh in on?
You bet.
Okay. Oh, this is great. I'm sorry. I'm finally able to see the chat again. That's a great idea, Andy, to develop 4 plug and play programs, one
Yeah.
for each theme. I like it. And then for further action items, I'd like folks to take a look at the spreadsheet and plug in information there on contact lists or contact people. Like the league contact list is not like a list that anyone can email, but folks at the league can email everyone on that list. So, you know, I think that how we put that information in will change from place to place, but and then Kathy, I think, is going to reach out to some of her tribal contacts and float the idea of how to get tribal participation on this subcommittee. And then we had a tentative plan to have like a point person assigned to responding to folks who reach out to the subcommittee. Between now and our next meeting. It's a short period of time. It's only a couple of weeks, I think, till our next meeting. Do we have any volunteers? I know there are only 3 of us here. So as myself, I'm happy to continue doing it, but if someone could take it off my plate, it'd be great.
How much volume has there been? I mean, it's really not very big, right?
No.
Yeah, I guess if I could, I'll do that. If you could share like whatever you sent, maybe to one of the last ones or something.
Sure. Okay.
So I'm not just, you know, jibber jabbering about things I don't know anything about.
That's fine, Doug. Okay, great.
I actually like the idea that maybe whoever took over, like that Doug would actually just start sending radical missives about reinterpreting the American Revolution, just like totally going.
Way out of line. Yeah.
Yeah. My God, what's he been saying? I think actually.
Yeah.
Where's the oversight? No.
Yeah. Let this man-
Just some marks. I mean, I don't know what could go in there. Whatever.
Yeah.
It'd be fantastic.
I fully-
Nothing would
fully
surprise
support.
us.
I
Yeah.
like that.
I always, when I'm frustrated with people, I'm like, well, I just make it up. And they really look at me like, really? And I'm like, yeah, if you think that's true. Yep. Then yeah, it's true. Make it up.
Okay, great. I think we actually kind of made it through this agenda. And we have like 4 minutes to spare. Is there anything else that I've missed in my brain fog or and congestion or Cindy, is there anything that we need to be doing as a subcommittee that we haven't done?
I think this is a great start, and I'm excited to see how all of the action plans shape up and the overlap and the non-overlap and ideas that people have for each other.
So is the plan basically to like, you know, at the next, I know we have like a tentative agenda for the next full commission meeting.
Mhm.
And I will just flag that I linked a couple of items in our agenda to the IDEA assessment, which we didn't look at together, but also the event approvals criteria. Please make sure to take a look at these prior to our next meeting, because I don't think we want to spend the time having a conversation about them rather than reading them at the next meeting. And then
And so the hope is that folks will also do the same with the action plans. It won't be so much reporting out on those, but rather a chance for the commission to ask any questions about each subcommittee's action plan. Yep, Andy.
I had signed up to say I would help with sort of talking points, but then I got lost in the state marketing campaign, the marketing subcommittee and Cindy, what you've already started working on or were planning to.
Yep.
What's the next step for that?
Oh, yeah.
Should I do something or should I be in touch with marketing first? Amherst, do you want to connect me to marketing or should I actually just wait and not get out in front of the state's very expensive, flashy, new glossy thing and wait until that comes out?
I don't think that's gonna impact the talking points too much.
Okay.
So I'm happy to connect Amherst, Andy, Rob in an email. And then maybe there we can hammer out who does what
Sure.
and then go from there.
I'm glad to do it all myself or to not do anything. I just want to not do what someone else believes they are already doing.
Good. Well, it sounds like Cindy will send an email connecting the appropriate people and talking about
Okay.
next steps.
Sure. Thank you, Cindy.
Good. Great. Awesome. Cindy, you're the best. Anything else in our last minute that anyone wants to say? Thank you all for being here. And I apologize for my kind of like scatterbrained organization of this meeting. My brain feels very scattered.
We all hope you feel better soon.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you so much. Thank you in advance, Doug, for the many things they're going to be doing between now and the next meeting, between minutes and revisions. If you want to send something out like early next week, and then I think if we can have folks weigh in between that point and the end of next week, I think that would be a good timeline. And then we have, I don't know, maybe just like, maybe give people like 48 hours to give their comments. And then, I will do my best. I have a grant application due, but I'll do my best. And I would hope that maybe Doug or somebody, maybe Doug and I can just go and refine everything up from there if Doug is willing.
Sure. It shouldn't be all that radically different, right? We're incorporating, we're synthesizing, we're reducing if possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know that nobody's going to want to be doing this work over the long weekend. So I just think it'd be great if we have like next Friday is actually the due date instead of the 10th. But if we need the 10th, we could take it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. Thank you all for being here. Have
Thank
a good
you.
day. Enjoy the sunshine.